Purple, you're looking sus! Die! Salam guys, today we are going to Boo! Did I scare you? Yeah, we are going to recreate Among Us in a Halloween setting because it's Halloween? Just imagine, one thing is to stupidly enter the haunted house, but another is to get stuck in the spaceship with a monster. Cool, right? And also, Among Us is everywhere. Or it was, I don't know. I always join trends against the clock when the ship has already sailed. Anyways, we're almost at 100 subs, so consider subscribing if you like the video. Let's begin! Since we're making a Halloween aka horror game, I decided to turn the imposter into a monster with the blood, check, the thanks, check, and brutal kill animation like piercing the tongue through the eyeballs of a crewmate. What do you mean this animation is already in the game? Oh how, I thought it was just a cool fan art that I can add to my game. So let's discard the fact that I should have watched at least some gameplays of Among Us and let's reinvent the wheel. Launch the time-lapse. After throwing the sprites into Unity's animator, I made the running and idle animation by lowering or raising the arm. After all, we all know that's how normal people look like when they stand still. Yo team, how are you? Are you okay? I guess I'll see you tomorrow. After that, I forced the camera to follow the player, as well as made a simple layout of the map by Jesus Christ, who stole the upper engine? No, please, don't tell me the lower. No! God, please no! Not the lower engine, damn you green, I knew you were looking sus. By the way, I was messing around in the settings of the recording software and somehow most of the footage now look laggy, sorry for that. I then decided that it will be extremely creative to allow player to change the gravity of the character to different sides, making the game more challenging. Or I just forgot to freeze the rotation of the sprite. You may consider either explanation. I finished making the map look as close to the original as possible, and this step actually took me 2 days to complete. Finding sprites wasn't that bad, but separating them. The next step was the lighting system. I actually installed Unity's universal lighting pipeline for that purpose, changed all the sprite materials, then decided to remove the URP, ripped the soul out of my body once I realized that I messed up the entire project, and then successfully went back to the original version of the project. Thanks God the GitHub exists. What is the #1 thing forgettable by all horror characters that gets them stretched? No, I'm not talking about brains, it would be asking too much from them. Right, flashlight. My initial idea was to use a sprite mask for a flashlight, and then make the ordinary map visible outside the mask, and the darker, bloody version of a map visible inside. However, I buried the whole idea down and decided to learn how to use meshes. Cause why not?
Here lies
Timmers.
hopes and dreams.
Basically, I will spawn 3 vertices that will be connected to the origin, and then a number of rays of a certain length between them. Not sure that it should look like that, but at least no monster will penetrate the super defense of level Larry Daily. Cool. I then made the additional layer called Solid for objects that should stop the propagation of rays. Don't worry if it looks ugly, nobody will notice once we turn down the light intensity, the main rule of horrors. Right after that, I thought of switching between 2 distances, one for a distant but narrow range, another for a short but wide range. All according to the canon, there is just no way for you to have both good things at the same time, right? Discovering how to manipulate the scriptable render pipeline by modifying different custom features and stencil buffer was one of the biggest advancements for me. Because it makes me sound smarter. But in short, it allowed me to render certain objects only if they inside of my mesh layer. The same principle was applied to create a dark image on top of the camera that doesn't affect the flashlight. Okay, I raised my self-esteem for enough, and now it's time to balance it out with something incredibly stupid like, oh, holy collider, what is that? And also, this beam of light looks stupid, skittish. Nice. I was then experimenting with assigning different colors to crewmates and... oh. I guess the original one wasn't that scary after all. Please, call my mom. But hey, crewmates in our game are not some weak kitties anymore and they will defend themselves. Give this blue a gun. The next several hours I spent trying to understand why my gun doesn't want to rotate. Turned out I was also changing the value of the gun via animator.
You can stay, but I'm leaving.
Yellow if they're using late season apples.
As a gentleman, I friendly asked my code to check for me if the distance to a solid object is smaller than to the enemy, and if that's the case, it shouldn't count the ray to the enemy. But once the enemy is in the range, die Balderdash, die! Let's spice it out by salting some impact particles and making them always visible. Die! And also pushing the imposter towards the direction of the shot. Okay, time for a proper response from the imposter, right? So I decided that once you reach a certain radius with an imposter, he one-shots you by chidoring your eyes. Hey yo, Big Toe, how is it going? No, Dani! Green, you know something about this, don't you? Come on out! Request getting party. No? So, after some adjustments, I ended up with... Never mind, I ended up with this killing mechanics. And finally, by communalizing the sound effects from the internet, adding cool Halloween hats to the crewmates and throwing some post-processing effects to the scene, our final game looks like this. And that's it for today. If you are new to this channel, consider joining our community because we're almost at 100 subscribers. Let's get it, guys, we're almost here. Once again, thank you for watching this video, and if this video gets like 15 likes, I will make the second part of this video, where I will finish my game. Thank you for watching. See ya next week.